Good morning. I'd like to welcome everybody out today to our regular board meeting agenda. December 12th, 2024 at the Magna Water District, 8885 West, 3500 South, General Office Building. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Will you guys all stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I'd like to welcome the public and the guests. Before we get started, today at our diocese table, we have our district engineer, Trevor Andre, our sewer manager, Dallas Henline. Steve Clark is our water manager, assisting with Raymond Mondragon. Andrew Sumption is our HR. Jeff White, myself, Mick Sudbury. Danny Stewart is excused. Leal Fitzgerald, our controller. Legal counsel is Nathan Bracken, and helping us with the meeting today is our general manager, Clint Dilley. Does anybody here today have any public comment they want to address the board?
Did not receive any.
Okay, does anybody here have a conflict with the interest of anything on this agenda today? Okay, seeing none.
Okay.
Okay, common consent items.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of the regular board meeting held November 14th, 2024. Minutes of the 2025 budget hearing held November 14th, 2024. And approve the expenses for November 4th to December 1st, 2024, which is the general expenses, $1,085,100.26, and the Zions Bank Bond payment, $83,492.50.
Second, it's been motion second. All in favor? Aye. Okay, moving on. Let's go to item G. Who wants to take this today? Andrew, is this yours?
Yes, we have Ed Tucker here. You want to stand up? Awesome. Raymond and Steve were quite impressed with the extra effort that Ed went into in this. Is it the chemical room? In the chemical room, the lighting was starting to die out and it was getting hard to see. And so Ed went through, created a diagram of what needed to be done, and they completed the work last Thursday.
Yep.
Steve can touch a little bit more on that.
Yeah, so the lighting's always been an issue down at the plant since day one. It's been pretty bad, and you can see how many of them are burned out now. So went through and changed them to LED, and
So the black ones are
black
ones
ones
that are out.
are out, yeah. And yeah, it made a huge difference in there now.
Who normally takes care of that?
So for this stuff, we need a lift, and a lot of the times we'll do it ourselves. But where we decided to switch them to LED, then we contracted that out to, I think that was Force.
So we bypassed the ballast and just did direct LEDs?
Yeah,
Okay. Are they 8-footers or 4-footers?
4 right at 4 footers.
4-footers, okay.
When I saw this, I was just impressed because it makes it real easy to see what's going on. And for someone to take the time to do that and helps communicate a message, I thought that was awesome that Ed took that upon himself. And
Good.
Did a great job on it.
It looks like daylight in there, because I did mine same thing.
Yeah.
It's like daylight in there. That's
Thanks,
good.
Ed.
Makes a safer work environment.
For sure.
Okay, let's move on to
We
Scott.
got one more.
Yeah, I was gonna say, let's move on to Scott Beck.
You want to
Okay.
take this, Dallas?
Scott Beck, he's our senior non-lead man down at the wastewater plant. He's recently passed his wastewater treatment grade 4 certification. You know, for us that are familiar with these tests, this is one of the harder ones. They're all challenging, but this one is one of the harder ones. I know what Scott got as far as the grade goes on the test, so that's giving me an idea of how hard he studied. So this is a test that I wouldn't have expected Scott to pass for a few more years based on his tenure in the district, but just going above and beyond So it's great job, Scott.
Thanks, Scott.
Thank you.
Thanks, Scott.
I'll just add to that. Scott was able to become one of the senior operators. There's 2 criteria. They have to have years of service with the district of 12 years minimum, right? And then they have to have all their certifications that are required.
Right.
But that, we recognize him, he's valuable to the team. Even in a non-lead, he will help back up and training, teaching the other operators, filling in for the lead man. We think that program was a really big win for the district. And
Awesome.
Scott's a great example of making that happen, so we're pleased.
Fantastic.
Again, thanks, Scott. And Ed. Okay, let's move on to our department reports.
All right, thanks, Mr. Chairman. Just on staffing, wanted to update the board. On the water operations side, we had the 2 service maintenance positions on the construction crew open. Those have been advertised and posted outside. They've conducted interviews. They've got 1 person that has been sent an offer, right? And so he'll go through that process. We're hopeful he'll start towards the end of the year.
December 30th.
December 30th is the target date. So we're excited to have him start. And then we'll continue conducting interviews for the 2nd position. On the collections crew, that position was advertised and interviews, and we've had an offer and an acceptance, right?
Correct.
And he'll be starting
Monday.
Right on.
So we're excited to be getting fully staffed on the operations side. On the water operations, just a couple things to mention to the board. That inline hot tap style valve that Raymond looked into and recommended was approved last month. That's targeted for around January, right?
End of January.
Okay.
Yep. They've completed 6 out of 8 of the EDR stack replacements. I've got 4 of 8, but they've done 2 more.
Yep.
And so we're almost through the replacement of those stacks, which is the first time we've had to replace them since they've been put in.
Yeah.
And they are a more efficient unit, so we get a little bit more capacity out of them, right?
Yep. Yeah, they removed some of the, little bit more of the contaminants and then a little bit more GPM also.
I will also highlight that on the wastewater side, if you've driven down to the plant, there's a pretty big hole out in the road, and there's some diversion of the traffic. That is the bypass connection. There's basically 2 main, we call them the east and the west headworks, and those 2 main trunk lines come into the plant separately. We're diverting the one from the east to the west, right? Or, sorry, west to the east, so that we can put in that new lift station. So that'll be a year-long
Right, a year-long bypass.
bypass, and then we'll open that back up, and then it will connect inside the plant permanently, right?
Correct.
Cool.
In the office, wanted to highlight the Yapify. We've made progress on that customer notification platform. They've already got 1 example. Can you pull up the website just to show them? We're starting to collect customer information through Yapify now on the website. Trevor will pull that up. We've had 3 coordination meetings with them. I think we put together a flyer to inform the public, Leisle and the Yapify team. We're finalizing that, and we'll get that sent out to our customers to notify them, hey, we're rolling out this new way to notify you. Trevor, do you
You'll
have
show 'em
just,
our
do you
website
just
where
have
it
the
pops up?
regular website?
Oh, our website, sorry.
So you'll see a little pop-up that's new.
It takes a minute to,
Takes a minute to load.
depending on internet.
It's a widget, they call it. And it will ask, right now, it's just asking people to update their confirm.
Yeah, sometimes it loads quicker too, sometimes it's
When I
slower.
pulled it up, it
Must be the
loaded fast.
connection.
The Wi-Fi.
I don't know.
As soon as he gets that pulled up, we can.
It only loads slow when you're trying to show somebody.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, I think this is gonna be a great
Big deal.
a great tool on this, because then that way, if we got a problem, it'll address that area to let them know that they're gonna be shut out of water for a while.
Yeah. We've talked, there will be some more coordination in the office, between office and field staff, that will be required. Like for a league, for example, one of the reasons we've got questions is we'll be able to draw in the location of the people affected, and it will automatically update the addresses, and then it will send out notices just to those people
Right.
and communicate directly.
And I won't have to answer any calls, right?
Well,
We're hoping.
we're hoping. The challenge will be is how do we continue that level of service when we're not in the office?
Right.
We'll have to come up with some options for the board to, how do we address that issue when we're not, someone is not actively staffing the Yopify. We're gonna have to decide how to handle that, if we wanna provide that same level of service when we're not here.
So when they come to our website, that pops up, and then they can add or update their contact information.
Yeah, we've had 7 people in 2 weeks.
And they can also start a conversation with us through this. You know, you may have noticed it like on your gas company
Right.
or,
It will be more like Power and Gas and Comcast that have those notifications when there's a service interruption.
yeah. You
How
won't
estimated
have
time?
the robot that you're talking to.
No, it won't be a robot.
Okay.
But we're moving towards that. It could take some time to get it perfected. But we're excited about that. And hopefully that improves customer experience, and they feel like they know more and can address their concerns quicker. As far as communication and morale with the community, we attended that UASD conference training and certification. Leisle had something she wanted to point out from that.
I was gonna do it when I do the compliance, but I can do it now.
That's fine. We have the inaugural safety committee members will be recognized next month. We're excited to highlight what was accomplished with that safety committee and the development of a safety program and binder, a manual. And we did talk about the customer complaints for this month that I wanted to highlight. We did have a few calls on that 8950 West leak, and we had some Facebook, activity. And so we've talked about how Yopify will help with that. We've also talked about how we can use that Yopify to notice and manage expectations. I think the big thing that came away was people thought there were 10 people, one person working and 10 people standing. That wasn't the reality of the situation. Whenever we have something like that, we're gonna bring out a big response when it's causing customer property damage.
Right.
To assess, we're gonna have managers. We might have some people training that haven't been through a bigger leak like that. So we'll be able to educate them. Hey, this is what's going on. This is why we have some staff. Some are cleaning up, some are training. Those types of things, we can better manage the public's perception of.
Right, and one of the things that I want to do that I talked to you about is I want to make sure we reach out to the customer and make sure they're being taken care of by the insurance company.
Yes.
We need to make sure that that's getting taken care of.
Yeah.
Because, that's a big concern, because if I had that happen to my house, I'd be devastated.
I agree. We were fortunate in this case. There wasn't a whole lot that actually got into the house compared to what there could have been.
Right.
But it still did cause quite a bit of, it was a visual,
Right.
if anything, of water spraying towards the house.
In freezing temperature.
Yeah, so that's my report unless the board has anything else.
You have anything, Jeff? Okay, let's move on to our engineering report. Trevor?
Okay, thank you, Board and Chair. So the updates on engineering capital projects. We've still got the reuse project moving along. They're doing kind of final landscape work, spreading some material around the site. They'll we're working on a final punch list as well that will take care of some, you know, kind of minor items, interior and cleaning up inside there. For the influent pump station, Clint mentioned the work outside the fence. Inside the fence, they've started breaking ground for the grit building as well as the pump station site. So they're kind of working both of those. They'll start forming up the grit building foundation relatively soon. I've got the bypass there. We are also working on our wastewater treatment plant facility plan. We had a good meeting on that last week. Anticipate that wrapping up sometime this year. So we'll have that final report to be presenting in the first part of next year to you.
Trevor, I had a question.
I put
Will that
25
open
winter.
hole stay open for a whole year, or will we cover it back up?
The excavation
The
for the
bypass.
bypass, it'll be covered up and paved.
Okay.
Yep. Because it's a bypass, but it's not like pumping, you know, it's a flow.
Right.
Yep. I just noticed I have winter 25 on here. I did not mean that. Well, I guess January 25 is winter still, right? Haynes well number 8, still waiting on responses back from EPA on their review of everything. Last week and this week, I did some training that was mandatory for it. So that's moving along, but at a slow pace. Haynes number 7, we've got a plan for that rehabilitation, which is basically the treatment to clean that well casing and, you know, aquifer. So we've got plan to turn that into the state in December. That'll allow them to review it and us to send it out to bid late December into January, with the anticipation of doing the work kind of February, March timeframe, and the well being ready to be back in service in the summer, when we, kind of before we get our peak season. So that's working out well. West Side Collection, Phase 1B, we awarded to BD Bush. They're actually just got some correspondence from them. They want to start in January if everything lines up for them. So I had February, March here, but could be about a month early.
Okay.
So, and that'd be mainly the open cut right now. The trenchless won't happen until a little bit later next year. Other things, lobby office, we've got those tables and chairs ordered. Anticipate that in January, just with the holidays, everything's kind of pushed
Okay.
that schedule, but that's it.
Thank you. You have any questions, Jeff? Okay, let's moving on to our water report. Steve?
Thank you, Board and Chair. We'll start out with the water production summary. So far, the culinary water production for the month of November was 94.35 million gallons, or 289.56 acre feet, which is an increase of 5.69% from 2023. Year-to-date has been 1,663.47 million gallons, or 5,105.37 acre feet, and that's a 8.9% increase from 2023. So far, we've purchased 735.27 acre feet from Jordan Valley. As far as call-outs for last month, we had a total of 10 call-outs. 7 of them were water, 3 of them were wastewater. For total call-out hours was 36, which was 24 of those were water and 12 were wastewater. We had 2 main line leaks, 1 service line leak, and then 7 miscellaneous calls. And then just kind of a quick rundown what's going on with the guys. Follow up what Clint was saying. They got the 6 stacks in. They're hoping to have 2 more done by the end of the year, so that'll be the 8 that we have. And then
Awesome.
once they get that done, they're gonna start disassembling the other ones and salvaging what we can use from them, putting it into our other spots that need them. So that'll help out quite a bit down there. And
Yeah.
then
Steve, in that purchased water, how does that relate to normally what we buy from Jordan Valley?
I think we're on track, gonna be real close to our 800 acre feet.
Is that what we're usually, sign up for, 800?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
all right, thank you.
Then the construction crew, the weather's really helped them this year, so they're actually in pretty good shape going into winter as far as being able to keep caught up on the concrete and asphalt.
Awesome.
And right now, they're doing a big push on the secondary boxes and meters, trying to get a bunch of those in before the weather turns on us, so. that's all
Usually,
I-
when's that scheduled? That's April?
What's that?
The secondary water, is that April or May?
April 15th.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Dallas, have you give us your report?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Wastewater treatment operations, we've got the second round of training with the reuse filter manufacturer scheduled for next week. So they'll come out and spend a couple days with us and just go over some additional training that we need. And then our operations team is working on dialing the dose to the secondary alum injection site. And the plan there is just to optimize that dose in the hopes of some possible chemical cost savings for 2025. And then on the collection side, the boys are doing some annual manhole inspections. I talked about that last month. That will carry us probably through February, so that's kind of a longer process. And then the collections crew finished their Q4 grease trap inspections. Right now, we've got 47 grease traps that we inspect every quarter. This quarter, there were no reported issues. And then I wanted to give a quick update on the Vector truck purchase. We were, at the time of purchase, they were estimating delivery Q1 of 2025, potentially February or March. We received a phone call late last week, and that timeline's been moved up, and we anticipate taking delivery on that before Christmas.
Right on.
That's good.
So I think that's one of those, kind of a big deal, and I think once that arrives, we make that available for anybody to kind of check out. And if the board has some interest in looking at the new equipment or
Absolutely.
any other team members, we'll just have that available for
Now,
people
what's
to.
the interface, once we get this one, we get trained and everything on this one, then we retire the old one?
So we've actually negotiated a trade-in, pretty fair value, somewhere on the order of 250,000. So once we assume ownership of the new one, to your point, we'll send that one in. So right now, that one is just being cleaned. We'll take everything out that we own. We'll make sure everything that is in there as part of the negotiation is squared away. And then that will be just basically parked unless there's an emergency until we get that trade swapped out. So there's no issues. And that's all I've got, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Leal, we're gonna come to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Board. So on our compliance report, the year's almost over, so they're almost all done. We get to start all over again. The first one's highlighted yellow. It's the posting of our annual scheduled regular board meetings. There's a later agenda items to have the board approve that if they do so. And then the reason the one in the middle of the first page is red is because it's kind of a self-reminder that we've learned something different at the UASD right now on the public notice website. Your names are posted there, and our general phone number, 250-2118, is posted there to get a hold of you. We've since learned that they've somehow got to have a direct contact to get to you guys. So we've kind of talked about a few things or different ways we can do that. Or we can just put your personal cell phone number on there, and I don't think that you want to do that. Anyway, so that's just a reminder, we've got to revisit that to be in compliant.
One that they can use.
And then the next one is the money management report that's due every 6 months. That'll be due the end of January, reporting the end of the year. And then the annual filing of our fraud risk assessment. I learned something else. We learned something else at the UASD, that the fraud risk assessment that is brought to you and approved every year is basically, it's not a penalty if you don't score so high, and it's not to say that the district's doing bad. All it is a report that shows the state what areas that our district might need help on. So, I mean, before I, was nervous about it, thinking, oh my gosh, we're not gonna score like we should, and da-da-da, and it's really not to penalize, it's just so they know where to help us. But that's later on in the agenda to have it approved for 2024.
Yeah, we're still low risk. I
Yeah.
think we're in good shape for the size of our district. The other, to get very low, quite a bit more cost and employee time.
Yeah, and really the only thing we could do is have a audit committee. And not a committee, but like an outside auditor committee.
Right.
And we discussed that when we were doing the AR&R update, that a lot of those best practices that the auditor recommends are really geared for much larger districts. And that there's a cost-benefit trade-off to doing everything. I think we did most of what we could do.
Yeah, we've done
It was
everything we can.
cost-effective.
Yeah, we did. So yeah, that'll come up for approval later in the agenda. But that's all I have, unless you have any questions.
You have anything, Jeff?
Who else takes the test? Is it just you, Leon?
It's really not a test. I fill out the assessment, but there's all kinds of areas to it. They ask about internal control, if we have our segregation of duties, if we feel. So,
So it's basically just a report.
yeah, and some of the answers are based on what Mandy can do, what I can do, what our whole office does, what Clint does.
Do they get back to you and tell you? They don't say anything?
No,
I've never heard back from them.
No, it's intended to be a checklist that you do every year to see how you're doing, to see how you're conforming to the auditor's best management practices. And so my advice has always been, while their best management practices are not necessarily required by law, if we ever get in trouble with the auditor's office, they're gonna compare us with how we're doing relative to their best management practice. So I think it's important to take them seriously. I do have, one of the issues I have with the assessment, I think it's a good checklist.
Yeah.
But the weight that they apply to certain things, some of these things are weighted like 20 points and others are weighted 5. And so some of the things that are rated 20, I think the fraud risk hotline is 20. I've never seen that provide any real value.
I
But,
think they put that in there because that's how they find
Yeah.
most of the issues that they ever
so
find.
I'm not, it's important to do, it's a worthwhile exercise because it's a good annual checklist. But like Leal said, I mean, if we have a bad score, no one's gonna come in and do anything, but it's good to have a good score, so
Right.
the auditor sees it, they know that, and if someone, where I think it has value, and I've had this happen recently with another client, is a lot of residents got mad at this district for trying to enforce some water conservation. And they made up a lot of allegations and a lot of false claims, and the auditor, and I was like, well, just take it to the auditor's office. And they went to the auditors, and the auditor's like, doing everything right. The fraud risk assessment's low, they were submitting all their reports, and so that's where I think it has some value.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it really helps them to look at what districts might have some issues.
Yeah, okay.
So, but it is based on not just one person evaluating or taking a test, it's based on our,
The whole management. Good.
And the other value
and
it has
functions.
is, there are always changes each year to these things, usually more in the best management practices that the
Yeah.
auditor has, and it's a good way to say, okay, here's something you might need to update
Yeah.
or tweak.
It is helpful. Any other questions?
Nope.
Awesome.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Andrew?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. This month's safety focus is ergonomics and workplace injuries. We're going around meeting with the employees on that. We're gonna be doing teaching some stretching, some lifting techniques and things like that throughout the month. We have some good candidates that we plan on interviewing next week with Steve and Justin and myself. We'll get them in and we'll report back how those candidates did. And then, just as Clint said, again, we've got 2 selected candidates, hopefully starting December 16th and December 30th. And that's it for me, Mr.
Great,
Chair.
thank you. So let's move on to item I. Water and sewer availability. Who wants to take number 1?
I'll do that. Thank you, Chair and Board. What we have here is Eagle Meadows subdivision. It's located at 7613 West, 3100 South. And as in the letter, we do have existing water, sewer. We do not have existing secondary there. What we're recommending is that we connect to existing water in 3210 and extend that to 3100 with an 8-inch main. We're recommending that the sewer do the same, connect in 3210 and extend north to 3100. And then secondary water within the development and along the frontage. And if we go to the next page, we can see a map of the property and our existing utilities. It's a longer, narrow parcel. We do have existing sewer here. It's within the county property and a little bit in this 7633 property. And for this development, the requirement would be to do a new sewer main that those homes could then all connect to. So our recommendation is to approve water and sewer. Any
I have a
thoughts,
question. So this has
discussion?
never came to the city yet. So I thought our goal is we weren't gonna approve nothing until we have a letter
So
from the
if-
city stating that.
If it's a zone change or an administrative action that the city's required to do, we would wait. But this is within the current zoning,
Okay,
and so for them to approve the plan, they require this letter from us.
So is
Or
that gonna be?
for them to submit it, a full submittal to the city.
Trevor, will that be a secondary dry line that will be across the frontage,
Correct, through running north-south. and
just
along
on
the frontage.
3100? And nothing above, just on the lower part?
Yeah, because there's property there to the south that would, there's really not a frontage. There's a roadway that the secondary would be in, and the frontage is mainly on 31.
so the land to the west, is that owned by the state?
This is
Or the
owned-
county?
It's owned by Salt Lake County, and we got, conversations with them and confirmation that their intention is to hold that long-term, use it as stormwater.
Okay,
And that kind of, helped us wrap our heads around how this may, develop.
Trevor, is this a conduit where we already have sewer and water will continue from 3100? Do we need to put a secondary water line up through there?
So
To
the-
get up to the south?
Yeah, secondary water, so here is an engineering plan that we've just, quickly drawn in some facilities based on our standards. So this could change to some degree through review and refinement. But yes, there is a secondary line that would run north-south and then along this
Connect along the
frontage.
frontage.
Yep.
So how big of a trunk line is that going up to the south?
On secondary,
Uh-huh,
we're 8-inch.
8-inch?
Yep.
Okay.
and do we know what's going in there?
Single-family lots,
Okay, and how many we're gonna
total
have?
of 10.
They're total of
Well-
10?
9 new ones. Lot 1 is the existing home.
Okay, and what's the lot size?
They are .16, I think, throughout.
Okay.
How big are they?
0.16. So is the road gonna go in and come out onto 3100? Is that how it looks?
That is the intention. It would tie into 7615, go straight through to 3100.
Okay.
It's 0.16. How many square feet is that?
43,560 times .16.
Yeah. 69, that's like 7,000 square foot lot?
Sounds about right.
7,000.
69.
But depending on what the city approves, it doesn't change what we have to do on the.
Nope.
So does that turn into then a municipal right-of-way for sewer and water then?
I don't know if they'll propose private or public, but it is a right-of-way and gives us full access to our facilities.
And that's what you were concerned about?
And that was one of our
Okay.
big concerns.
Todd, do you know if this is coming before you guys?
There's nothing in December.
Okay, so it'll have to be January then, huh?
If it's not a zoning change,
It won't have to come, okay.
It's gotta be a zone change because that upper part's agricultural, isn't it?
It's all a single lot right now,
Oh,
zoned as residential.
okay,
So that lot size fits within the current zoning.
okay.
So Trevor, it's a permitted use, right? So then it won't need to go before the planning commission. So they've probably already submitted a completed application to the city.
We have representatives, right, from the, aren't they with this property?
The homeowner, or, yeah,
Georgia,
previous owner.
did you want to say anything on this, Georgia? You guys don't need to go back before the planning commission, isn't that correct?
I'm sorry, I can't.
You, go,
Well, we were going, we thought, I represent Georgia, not the builder.
Yeah.
We thought they were gonna be on the planning commission for the 12th, but apparently the staff didn't have enough time to check it out, and so they put it on, they actually canceled the meeting for today, planning commission, so they'll be on the January planning commission. But they've already talked to 2 or 3 of the planning commissioners, and they seen flat map, which is basically what he's got, and they said there's no problem going to them, so this should be I mean,
Changes the development.
this was the main thing.
It doesn't
was to
change
make
our
sure that they
front
can get the
end.
water and sewer done. And the plan supposedly is gonna be a rubber stamp, that's what they're telling me.
yeah, well, we appreciate it. I think you come up with a good solution to our concerns from the district side, so we appreciate that.
Good for us.
I think we're prepared to make a recommendations to the board for approval unless you have any.
Correct.
No, that sounds fine. So, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve water and sewer to the Eagle Meadow subdivision, 7613 West, 3100 South.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, item J.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Daryl, with Olympus Insurance, I wanted to just introduce him. They had provided the district with our general insurance. As you can see in the packet, they go out, depending on the market and where we're at with our insurance, they'll go out and get competitive bids with several insurance companies. And I'll let Daryl tell you the results of that. One of the bids that he requested didn't make it in time for the packet. So that's why you've got the printed off copy, and Daryl will give you an update as to what happened there and why that may be an option for us to consider, because it was quite a bit of savings.
Oh, good.
But there are some there's always a catch.
Oh.
So we'll let Daryl, just give the board an update, if you would, Daryl.
Yeah, we appreciate the board's time in reviewing the insurance. As I mentioned, we go through a very thorough process every year of evaluating all of the major risks of the district, including property. There's a valuation study completed to make sure that we're accurate on the current valuation on all the major assets of the district that have insurance, as well as all the operational details on the facilities and what the district does. We go through a very detailed review. We have requirements. You need to have experience in providing insurance coverage for water, for wastewater. They have to do some custom features to their insurance policies to make sure they will be responsive. We have a backup, if we have a water line break, if we have a major issue, we want to make sure all of these things are covered. As we completed the process, we had 8 responsive proposals. We had 1 pending. 1 came in a little bit later than the others, but the one that came in just a little bit later actually has a very nice cost savings to it. As Glenn mentioned, there's a couple of things that are different with this proposal. One is they have a little bit higher deductible structure. As we did our evaluation of your claims and the losses of the district, we feel that that's well within tolerance limits and that it would be wise to capture the savings, even though you have a little bit higher deductible.
What was the difference? What was the difference in the deductible?
The difference in deductible.
It's summarized in the table, on the next page.
Right.
Yeah, it's roughly on the property from 5,000 to 10,000. Earthquake deductible from 50,000 to 100,000. Flood deductible from 50 to 25, so that one actually went down. And auto physical damage from 2,500 to 3,000.
3,000. So the savings, so,
Roughly $35,000
yeah,
savings. Pretty substantial.
yeah.
And then there's one service that the present provider gave in that they would provide their claim service to assist in giving no-fault benefit to affected property owners. We feel that this could be replicated directly by the district. We don't need to secure that service through the insurance company. And you would still have substantial savings if we were to set up no-fault services on a direct basis rather than running through insurance companies. So our recommendation is that we capture the savings. We feel it's a very healthy savings. The provider is well established. They have over 20 years in working in the water, wastewater industry, well-seasoned provider. We have a number of other clients with them. They have a good claims unit. They're very responsive in getting out on claims. So we don't really see a downside for the district to make a change. There is one footnote, a portion of the claims, and it's the management liability and the employment practices liability is on claims made. The new carrier will provide backdated claim service if we have a claim that is totally unknown. We have a known situation that we're kind of concerned about that potentially could mature into a claim, possibly an EEOC action or something of that nature. Then we would need to do a one-time purchase of a conversion tail. If we're not aware of anything, that wouldn't be necessary, but that is also footnoted in the proposal. So our recommendation is to take the savings and we'll work with staff on the no-fault portion. And I think the deductible changes are well within tolerance limits.
Wanted to have the board's thoughts. I know that is a change. We could, in essence, one of the things I asked Daryl is how many no-fault
Claims that we
claims
have.
are we averaging? And I think it was pretty minimal, with the exception of, I think, that sewer backup, but that's been on 7200 West.
20 years ago, that's been.
Oh,
But I don't know
that
the
was like
exact,
6 years ago.
oh, it's, yeah, even, it might be 10 years.
Yeah, it's
ago.
been longer than.
Me and Doug and Hank was on the board then.
Yeah, and, that's a rare event. With the 35,000 in savings, you could have up to 7,
Okay,
If the idea would be we took the savings and set it aside
right.
for our own no fault and then worked with, the insurance, like Daryl said.
In many of our districts, do administer their own no-fault concepts. I mean, they still provide the benefit, they just don't use the insurance company to administer the no-fault. We have a lot of information parameters on self-administering your own no-fault. There's a lot of resources that you can secure. If you need outside claim service to kind of sort out valuations, they're all available. Then, as we said, even if you took that savings, you put it into a dedicated no-fault fund, over time, you're gonna be way, way, way ahead, as opposed to running that through the insurance companies that administering that.
How long will this be in effect? Is
This
this
is a
every year?
year to year.
Year to
Okay.
year.
Yeah, typically, when we secure the coverages, we do it on an annual billing basis. But we also have an understanding with an underwriter that we will give multi-year rate continuity. We're really not interested in an insurance company that comes in and gives us deeply discounted rates, to have those rates adjust on the next annual period.
Oh.
So we have an understanding, it's one of the things that we work with the underwriters, that will give good multi-year rate continuity, so that if a change is made to them, we have an assurance that we'll still be within budget parameters when we come up to the next evaluation period.
Yeah, that's good. Keeps us in the,
Yeah.
keeps us in the thing. Okay.
So what's the premium on the AIG,
Yeah.
the ladder?
It's 227, 841.
227, yeah.
And the one on the agenda, proposed was 262, 926.
Right, that's what I seen. Is that what we're approving?
So you have either option. I think the board has either option. I think insurance recommendation and staff, from my perspective, I think the district would be worthwhile to capture those savings. But certainly understand any concerns that the board has with going that direction. We do have it written for the 262, but we could make
And so
that
we'll take the
adjustment.
difference and we'll just put it in a fund and,
If that's the direction from the board, I would recommend that.
Sure, that'd be fine.
okay.
So is there, okay,
So it'll be two,
it's listed on here. So,
Yeah, I know.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve the renewal of the annual insurance policy for 2025 through Olympus Insurance in the amount of $262,926.
It'll be
Yes.
227, 841.
it'd be 227, 841, right?
Yes.
227, 8, oh, I see it, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I see it here on the ad.
Yep.
So, through Olympus Insurance in the amount of $227,841.
Ben second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We're good.
Thank you. Thanks, Daryl.
Okay, Trevor,
All right, Board and Chair, we've got task order from Stantec for construction management services on Project 1B. I'll just pull up our GIS so you just do a quick discussion of where that project is. So that is, there's an existing manhole right here on a 30-inch sewer that comes over to the plant. This would extend that 30-inch down 8,000 West, and then we would cross the freeway, 201 freeway, and we have an existing main here. We would tie into that main near this park and ride.
Right.
And so this construction management services, encompasses that full project. There's the open cut portion, and then the pilot trenchless method that we approved last month for BD Bush. So in their task, they'll be doing construction management services. They'll be doing inspections. A lot of the time and focus is on this crossing of SR 201, UDOT has a lot of requirements on monitoring and ensuring that that road is, you know, not impacted in any way by the operation. As we've kind of gone through this with Stantec, they've been able to reduce the overall fee because we have the ability to handle daily inspections out there on the open cut portion. And so we'll be, you know, we were able to get a cost savings through that with us handling those day-to-day.
So Centec got
Inspections.
all the information the state required for 201,
Mm-hmm.
and they'll implement those same things in their inspections and everything.
Correct, correct. Yep, so, just, you know, to kind of give you an idea, this fee is roughly 5%, little under 5% of the overall construction cost. Typically, a CMS, like full service, is around 7 or 8% of that. So we are seeing a, you know, a 2 to 3% reduction by being out there ourselves in those daily inspections and working together with them, so.
Now, is this work, it's now complete enough we can bid the job?
The job was bid.
Oh, okay.
BD Bush was the low bid, and we awarded that last month.
Okay, yeah, okay. Good.
And right now, they're telling us they would like to start in January on the open cut.
Okay.
Oh, okay,
So I recommend approving that task order.
sure. So, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve Centec task order for construction management services on the West Side Collection System Improvement Project, 1B, in the amount of $162,570.
It's been second, motion, all in favor?
Aye?
Okay, Trevor,
Okay, number
18.
Let me jump over there. So, as you know, we've been doing lead and copper for quite a while now. AE2S has been supporting us through that. We did have a task order through 24 to kind of get through all of that inventory. And now they've been helping us produce a funding application for replacement of those lines, as well as a plan that the state requires for that. And then this will help us continue our ongoing updates to our mapping and any rule changes and support through 2025.
How long does it take that approval for that funding? I was just wondering.
The money, the SRF program has the money in it, so it shouldn't be terribly long, except the SRF board has backed up on hearing requests, and their staff is struggling, so normally that should be a maybe 2-week turnaround time, but it may be more right now.
But we're hiring somebody that's gonna give us the best submission anyway.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think we are concerned that we won't get the funding. It is a matter of
How long?
getting the application in and how long till that comes. And I do believe we have time. You know, we're kind of on the front of the curve in all of this.
Okay.
So,
Salt Lake City's the only one that has gotten that request in before Magna, so they haven't given any replacement money out.
Oh, we're on the forefront, good. Awesome,
Awesome.
okay.
so, and A2S has been great through this. We want to continue that relationship. so.
Awesome, great.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve AE2S task order for the 2025 LCRR and LCR1 compliance support in the amount of $38,600.
Been second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, let's move on to item K.
Okay, so we have our West Side collection projects that this was 1B is part of that West Side collection project, but basically it goes from the treatment plant along 8,000, and it's gonna kind of go along the frontage road to the west along our existing route of our sewer, through the golf course, along 2600, and then along 9200 west, to around this location. So that is, it's a multi-year project. It has multiple phases. We've basically got one half of a phase in, and we're working on getting the other half of that phase. So we have phase 2, 3, 4, and 5 still remaining. We have budgeted to do phase 2 next year, and then we'll keep doing this approach of one phase a year. And that includes a consultant helping with the design of that phase and then the construction management of that phase. And so, being that it's such a large project, overall, we wanted to do a RFQ. We sent out we sent out three consultants sent in proposals for that. We had AE2S, Bowen & Collins, and JUB. And after the management team reviewed each of those proposals, we have, hold on, I think there was a sheet in the packet that wasn't,
Trevor, I
it,
actually didn't get it in there.
okay.
I
Sorry.
didn't see anything.
I don't know why I can't pull up my folder.
You want me to go get it?
No. Somewhere we'll be able to. Sorry. Y'all want to look at my kids?
Yes, they're cute.
I can't pull up the. Anyways, the scoring was close through the three. Two of them, Bowen & Collins had the highest score after all of the staff reviewed that. JUB was second highest, and then AE2S. My recommendation is to award or to have two consultants in this pool for these projects.
Okay.
And they have a lot of similar qualifications, but we'll be able to then kind of separate that work, keep the schedules going, and we're confident that kind of leapfrogging those will be a benefit to us as we move through this.
So this isn't for the cost and scope.
No.
Any of that would be brought back to the board.
Correct.
Right.
Phase by phase, we would bring back specific task orders for the work.
So we don't make an approval for this?
Um,
Or are we approving the contract?
I think that you would approve the concept and having both JUB and Bowen & Collins be in that selection, or,
They've been deemed qualified.
qualified to assist us through this
So
West Side
it's
collection.
JCB,
JUB
JUB.
and Bowen & Collins.
And Bowling Collins, okay. So, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve Bowen & Collins and JUB consultants, engineering consultants for the West Side Collection Project.
Second, been motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, Leal.
This is minutes from our APA financial group. We met as the management team and Berkeley Hanks for the investment committee that we do, I believe, twice a year. He reported to us that the funds are doing really well. They had a really good record year. And normally with this, we approve their recommendations either to take people off a watch list, not people, but a fund off the watch list, or add one. But we did get to take one off of the watch list. So that just means that that fund passed all of the 12 tests that they do against their peers. So what we need, if you see fit, is to remove the American Funds Capital World Bond R5 from the watch list, and the other two will remain on the watch list. Or they can approve the minutes.
Yeah, I think the way you've written it
Yeah.
works, yeah.
You can approve the minutes from the investment committee meeting.
So we approved the minutes on the December 3rd meeting?
Yep.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to motion to approve approval of the investment committee meeting minutes that was discussed and approved, held on December 3rd, 2024, to remove funds from the watch list.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, Trevor.
Okay, thank you. Third here is we've got the change house alternative analysis. I'm just going to jump ahead to kind of our summary, and we can pull back to any of the pages if we want to discuss alternatives in more detail. So Bowen and Collins helped us with this analysis, and we looked at 3 different alternatives. We have cost estimates. We've looked at different criteria that would be covered through the different alternatives. Kind of behind the scenes, Bowen Collins did a lot of research on different building codes for the various alternatives, what structural requirements would be needed, the existing utilities on the site, conflicts, how utilities would get there, brought that all into their cost estimates, and did a good write-up on the viability of each of the alternatives. So if we look at the summary table, we've got cost estimates there at the top. Alternative 1 is a change house. I'm gonna pull this up so. Okay, I'll just jump here and we can look at kind of where the 3 alternatives are proposed. Alternative 1 is next to the existing operations building and digester. Alternative 2 is the existing West Headworks building, using that same footprint. Alternative 3 is out in the green grass area, west of the existing operations building and that shop garage. So some things to note, if we look just at alternative 1, this includes, kind of some locker rooms, shower area, restrooms, utility room. It is not connected to any existing buildings. There's a gap there, and there's some reasons behind that gap being needed. If there's common walls that affects the existing operations building, there's some potential to have some, female locker and shower areas in that existing building. And if we jump over to alternative 2, this is the existing Headworks building. This is with the footprint that we have, and if we look at kind of maximizing that, it ends up being a 2-story building. This is first floor, and then second floor. And it fits in the same locker room, showers, restrooms for men's, and then a smaller one for women's. It has a utility room and laundry, as well as some operator office and kitchen facilities, SCADA controls on that second level. Alternative 3 is all a single level. Out in that grass area, we kind of have the ability to use that space however we would see fit. So this ended up being a single level. It has a few other things, such as like a mud room. Then the other 2-story option has the same locker rooms, washer, dryer. The utility room could be a little bit bigger. Again, the size of this is kind of determined on what we would need. It's got a women's locker room, kitchen break room, offices, SCADA room, all of the networking in that same location. So I'm curious if the board has, what the board's thoughts are on.
So what do we budget for this?
We haven't budgeted,
We haven't budgeted specifically for this. We do have some budget for demolition, which could be, say West Headworks or a portion of the other facility, the building. But we don't have a budget number in 2025 for a change house.
wanted to have this done and get direction, if any. As you can
So
see.
what we gonna do with the old building? I mean, I
So-
don't want to tear
Yeah,
that
we don't-
building.
we-
I don't want that building to be
We
torn
don't
down.
propose that being torn down. We think it's a great historical building. It shows
Right.
where we've come from. It would be still utilized, but I think in a different fashion than it is now. You can see the control room is kind of here now, and it has quite a bit of other things within that space. Room enough for 3 operators, kind of cramped. It does have the restroom, utility room. This is, the existing bathroom. And then we have, over here is kind of where our locker rooms and changing rooms are. So there is a lot of usable space if we transition away from the current use of it.
Well, all I wanted was a change house.
Yeah.
I wasn't planning on getting into all this other stuff. All I asked is
Which is-
to keep us out of trouble, and that is,
Alternative one, I think. would-
but we need to also make it, alternative one needs to make it so it does have a women's facility in there if it ever comes down to an issue.
Yeah, we recognize that, and that's the sole focus
Where
on
I'm a
one.
little bit upset about is when we built that new one, our one we got over where you work out of, why didn't we think of all that stuff then? For offices and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so the first alternative, I think, accomplishes that goal. The difference is that it doesn't address anything in terms of the kitchen space.
But why do we need a kitchen space? We got a kitchen. We
Yeah.
got a really nice state-of-the-art kitchen over in his building. And that's
an
where
option.
everybody's supposed to meet every day for their lunch.
So what is this, on the south end there, what are all those, are those lockers?
These are showers. Showers/change. So they're a little deeper, and they have a partition separation from where the water is to where you change your clothes.
So you got a nice kitchen in the other building.
Yeah, the issue, part of the issue is the number of people eating at the same time.
How often do we get that?
I think that's.
So
something else.
I can comment on that, Mr. Chair. In the admin building, at any given time, we've got 6 to 7 operators eating.
How many does it hold in there?
That kitchen's got 8 chairs. And then at that same time, we've got 3 additional operators eating in the other building. So we're 2 chairs shy.
So can we offset the lunches?
That's an alternative to look at.
You gotta look at the cost,
Yeah. So that was one difference we wanted to highlight. I think the other is that the SCADA is also, and the electrical is also in that space where they are, and that has been highlighted as a concern that, on walkthroughs, that the board has addressed as a,
Well, I never wanted them guys to eat lunch in there. They do though.
right?
We need to enforce them down into the lunchroom.
So those are 2 things, and then the other option would, for alternative 3, I think the big thing is the additional rooms for the mudroom, to address the boots and the dirtiness of coming out from working in the yard. And then the network room and the file storage room, those are some advantages that they can capture with less cost. So alternative three that stood out to me is it is in between costs. It's still a significant investment, still about double alternative one, but it addresses more issues. So that's the debate, I think, that is what direction does the full board feel like? If this is enough to give us direction, or if you'd like to think about it more, or...
What is your guys' recommendation? Is it unanimous or?
Mr. Chair, if I could give two comments before Trevor makes his recommendation. One thing we're trying to eliminate is if we go with alternative A, which is strictly the showers and the change room, we're potentially putting ourselves in a position 5 years from now to where we've outgrown that space, not including the degradation of that building. You know, we were lucky that that thing survived the earthquake, but we can't modify that building, any of the utilities inside of it, without a big undertaking to bring it up to code. So we're potentially backing ourselves into a wall if we just go with alternative A and the addition of the small change house. And then separately, I wanted to just add in here, below the summary table, I think Bowen and Collins has done a really good job pointing out the historical value in that existing building and the steps we want to take to protect that. Nobody's got the intentions of demolishing that building. It just transfers to a lower risk occupancy in the future, so storage area, things like that. But I know that was one of the concerns, and the team's done a good job of trying to protect that.
So do you want to give the recommendation, the study?
Yeah, I mean, the recommendation based on the study is alternative three. It has the lower cost. I'll note that alternative three doesn't address the West Headworks when it's out of operation after this new pump station. That's still a building that's there that would require some level of maintenance. So if alternative three was the approach, I think there's still the discussion of, demolishing the West Headworks to some degree so that we don't have that liability sitting out there.
But I will say, there's no action proposed.
Nope.
Just wanted to get that out to the board and explain it. And then we can have, if you have direction now, that'd be great. If not, we can have more discussion, and we can revisit it.
What do you want to do?
Well, there's a lot of information here.
There is.
I think it needs to be looked at a little more carefully.
We can also take it and go tour and look at it down at the site.
Yeah, I'd like to do that.
Yeah, I think we need to have a little more discussion.
Okay. Sounds good.
There's quite a bit of difference in cost from 2 and 3 versus 1.
Bring it back to next month, will you?
Yeah.
In the meantime, between now and then, we'll go down and take some peeks.
Thank you.
So Trevor, you were saying based on cost, that, not based on cost, but what is the feeling of administration as far as Dallas?
I think
Is everybody in agreement of what they think would fit the best?
Alternative three gives us allows us to check all the boxes that were concerns of the board, concerns of staff, concerns from the management team. It allows for future growth.
Yeah, I will say, I think one of the big takeaways that Dallas highlighted that I didn't, which is a big issue, is how much longer can we survive in that building as is, with critical electrical equipment and,
Yeah, it's written in there also, they've addressed the air conditioning within that existing operations building. And because we have the SCADA networking in there, that the potential, the AC is not quite adequate, right, for what that building needs. And then you put that SCADA equipment in there, and that increases the risk of it, because that equipment needs to maintain certain operating temperatures to not have
Question I
failure.
have too is like, you know, we have the board, I mean, we have the office that you sit at. That boardroom could be cut down into a third. And we could make some offices or whatever we need to do in there too. I mean, we need to utilize that building, better too, because there's no way that you fill that boardroom up.
I think that there are times when we don't. 3 times this week, that room has been full. So it just depends
Completely
on
full, even with the chairs.
every chair, and there's a lot of meetings where we bring in additional chairs.
Wow, because it was never like that when we used to use
Yeah.
that building.
I think, part of the change is, when we have projects that are happening there or that have anything to do with sewer, we do meetings there, we hold the bid openings and the contractor pre-bid meetings and different stuff like that. So I think we're utilizing it in a different way, more dedicated to that space, and. the
We just
fact
got to
that-
remember one thing, when we're doing this work, it's all taxpayer money. So we've got to be
Absolutely.
accountable for it.
Yep.
So is it a want, is it a need, can we get by
Yeah.
with this, or can we get by with that? And I understand,
Yeah.
it's better to do it all now, because it'd be a lot cheaper than what it's gonna turn around and go back 3 or 4 or 5 years later, and it'll be double that. But we also got to look and see what will work.
Yeah, that's
And-
why we hope this gives you enough information to kind of digest that and look at it in those different ways.
Because at the end of the day, we're the ones that answer to the public, and
Absolutely.
it gets ugly.
I see number 2 with the stairway seems to be a little bit, it would seem to be a little better if everything's on the same playing field
Right.
than having to go up and down stairways.
There are some other considerations with
elevator
alternative
into
too. When you get into that second story, you're looking at accommodating all ADA accessibility on the main level, or you're putting an elevator in, and we're trying to avoid an elevator at all
Right.
costs.
Right, so that's what I'm saying, two's kind of out, and so let's push that back to next month, and then,
If there's anything else,
I'll have some more questions,
yeah,
I'm sure.
and if there's anything else we need to look at that you feel like we've missed,
Okay.
absolutely.
So if we approve this, how long before this gets going?
Well, I think we would be able to, within the budget, do a design in 25.
But we won't build it in 25?
I don't believe we would have that.
We could.
It depends. I mean, I think the change house would be, the alternative one would be the fastest through all of the process.
It would require an amendment to the budget.
One of our biggest things is safety.
Right.
We're down there in the chain. Yeah.
So that, if you'd like, we can bring that back. If we make a decision, we could bring that back with a budget amendment, so.
And again, I'm not mad at you guys, I'm mad at myself because I was involved when they built that
Yeah,
administration building, and you know what? It's horrible.
Hindsight's 20/20 though, sometimes you.
Because that was supposed to have change rooms and was supposed to have this and all this other stuff, and it has nothing.
Yeah. Now, Dallas, you're saying we'll outgrow.
it's a
alternate-
different philosophy. It was a different choice.
Dallas, you're saying we'll outgrow, option 1 within a year or 2?
Well, option 1 doesn't address the ability for the operators to eat safely over there.
Okay,
And then also, if you look at the SCADA control room right now, there's space for 3 operators. And we've got a potential future operator coming. And that doesn't do anything to address the layout in the existing building, aside from converting the existing showers to female showers.
okay.
So you see the footprint of the addition, which is separate, that is strictly locker rooms and male showers.
Right.
Nothing as far as kitchen, it doesn't give us the ability to increase our SCADA size or any of those electrical components. One more thing to consider, that as far as the HVAC system, we're putting like $6,000 to $7,000 a year into that AC unit. It just doesn't have, because of the ductwork, the ability to keep up with all that electrical equipment running in it. It's not uncommon for that building to be 90 degrees all summer long, and then the AC just can't keep up.
Yeah, the one problem with that is we can put in a mini split in that electrical control room. We don't need to circulate the air outside into that.
Right.
So we can put an air conditioning unit in there and completely eliminate that off the main part of the building. That would solve that problem
And
easily.
we have budgeted for a split system to protect that equipment, but we've held off on that until we've gotten some direction on what we do. If we're moving away from that building, then there are some things we can do to mitigate that heat buildup.
We should have put the mini split in before we spend $7,000 a year trying to mess with that existing heating
Sure.
cooling system. That doesn't make any sense,
I hear you.
yeah. Split systems have now gone up. We should have done it a couple of years ago.
This, I think our quote was around 15,000 for the building square foot size.
Yeah.
Well,
So-
couldn't you take that, the locker room that you got now, make that a ladies' locker room?
That's exactly right, Mr. Chair. So all that stuff that's now designated for males, that'll just be flipped. That'll be for future women. And then the addition is strictly for male.
Okay, like I said, I'm just upset because we have that kitchen over there where you're at. It's a nice kitchen, and we want to put another kitchen over on this other side. And
Right.
that was not ever the intended to do that. But we'll revisit it. Okay, let's move on. Okay, Leal.
I talked to the PTIF management the last couple weeks ago, and I can't remember why I called them, but they indicated we just needed to update our authorized users list, because for some reason, we still had someone on there. So that's all this is doing. It's just a resolution to authorize Clint and I to be the users on those accounts.
Okay. So I'll make a motion.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve of adding Clint Dillian and Leal Fitzgerald to the authorized users to the district's PTIF accounts.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Then the next one, if you don't mind, Chair? Or
Yes.
are you ready? Sorry.
Yes, no, we're good.
So every year at this time, we do a new schedule for the following year's board meetings. And I believe, if I remember right, they all landed on the second Thursday of every month. So we're proposing the schedule that's included in the packet for 2025. For
No
board meetings.
change because of conferences or anything like that? No. Okay, good.
So we don't have the motion on this, do we?
Well,
I guess
I'd
we
like a
do.
motion
Okay,
to approve
okay,
it so
okay.
it can be
Okay.
posted,
Mr.
advertised.
Chairperson, I'd like to approve the 2025 regular board meeting schedule as it's listed.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, approval of the 24 risk.
We talked about this earlier in the meeting. It's our fraud risk assessment that has to be approved, and then we submit it to the auditor's office at the end of every year. So,
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make the approval of the 2024 fraud risk assessment.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
thank you.
Okay, information discussion, Nathan.
So I've reported in the past on some legislation and resulting studies that the legislature asked the Utah Division of Water Resources to do. The one that's in the report stems from a bill called HB 280. That was a bill that ran earlier this year. It was sponsored by Representative Casey Snyder, and it was intended to address concerns about funding the tens of billions of dollars in water infrastructure needs that are pending in the state, and how best to do that. This was also in this bill, as you may recall, there was some discussion about imposing kind of an annual fee on water districts. That was taken out of the bill to do this study. There is also an entity called the Water Development Coordinating Council. HB 280 made some revisions to that. It allowed for the appointment of some representatives from the large 4 water districts on that council, that there was some discussion at the UASD level about whether that's the appropriate mix. And I don't think anybody disputes that those big four need to be there, but if there was maybe a role for smaller districts. And so that was something that this study was going to look at. So the study, it found that it didn't recommend any changes to the council makeup. So my expectations, that'll probably stay the same, which means we would need to make sure that district perspectives are represented through the big four folks that are appointed, which I don't think should be too much of a problem because we can work through that through the UASD. They did recommend, and I think this is a good thing, additional state investment to fund water infrastructure projects. So hopefully that will result in some funding. One of the questions that Representative Snyder had when he did this bill is we have all these different funding sources for drinking water, for water supply, for different things. Are we making sure that we're coordinating and doing that in a good way? Part of what the bill did ask for is kind of a unified plan on how to prioritize water infrastructure. That's still going forward. But there are some technical recommendations in this report about some specific statutes that could be changed to consolidate transfers of money from different funds to another. So I wanted to report on that, but I think more notably, another report just came out, and it's not in your packet, and that deals with a bill called SB 34. And that is a bill, as you may know, there's been a discussion at the legislature off and on for a number of years on whether or not water conservancy districts, those are the big wholesale, like Jordan Valley that you're on the board with, Mick, and Central Utah, whether those districts, and by extension other water districts, should have property tax authority. Right now, Magna and many other water districts use property taxes in addition to tiered rate structures to fund their operations. And there had been a question about whether or not the legislature should take away that property taxing authority and just make districts rely on fees. There was a thought that might result in less water use. And so one of the arguments that was made in that regard to support that was that Utah's unique in allowing districts to have property tax. So the legislature commissioned this study. The study just came out and it refutes that argument and says no district should have property tax. That's a very important thing that they need to have to function. In fact, it's not uncommon at all, and it goes through and shows all the other states that are using these property taxes, and Utah's property tax allocations are consistent with what other Western states are doing. And the good thing is I think there are a number of recommendations about another finding, though, and I think this is the main point for you, and that is they said, but one of the impacts of property taxes is it does tend to blunt the impact of the higher tiered rates, that those are lower than they otherwise would be. And so there are some recommendations in this report about maybe coming up with incentives or other things to either require or allow water providers, districts and cities to be able to, for lack of a better term, penalize really high users with their tiered rate structure to incentivize conservation and reward people that are being more efficient. I've had some conversations with some folks involved with the report and some legislators. I don't know what type of legislation we may see, but I think there's a good chance we may see something. And so I mention that because I know we're doing our planning. We're going to be looking at some rates. My recommendation would, let's continue with that effort, but let's hold off on adopting anything until we see what happens in the session. One thing I do want to add that you guys are ahead of the curve on is there are a lot of retail water suppliers that don't have metered connections either for their retail supplies or for their secondary. And I do think that is going to be a legislative change we'll make that mandates that, and you guys are already ahead of the curve on that. So that's my report. And I can, after I get back to the office, I'll send you the link to this other report that just came out.
Thank you.
Does Jordan Valley Water have shares in the Jordan River Canal?
I don't represent them. I don't know. Mick, you might know better than me.
I'm not quite sure. I don't think so.
Well, 2 years ago, they shut the farmers off a month early, upstream. And I'm wondering if there's anything we can do since we have done what we've done for secondary water, if we can help that situation for those upstream farmers.
Yeah.
It was just a question that came up. The other thing is possibly, do we have a means to turn any water down that gets to the Great Salt Lake that would possibly flush that canal out from that? Because the less we use, then more stagnant that Jordan River become, or the canal becomes.
I think that's worth looking into, for sure.
I think that would help.
I just, to add my 2 cents to that, we've had this discussion before, when your reuse plant goes online, you will have some shares that you're not gonna need for some time that I
We
think.
can go ahead and lease them out, right, though?
You could, yeah, I mean, you could lease them for use in the Great Salt Lake, which I think would be relatively easy. You could potentially lease them to farmers that get cut off.
Well, most of the farmers now, I just want to say, I don't want to compete with Kennecott or Rio Tinto. They're a private entity, so if they don't lease them out, they'll lose them. The state will take them. I'm positive of that. Where we're a municipality, we're kind of protected.
We have some more
But
flexibility.
I'm wondering if we could, like you said, lease them out to the state or something and subsidize what we're not putting in the Great Salt Lake with that rotten canal water.
Yeah, I think that's totally doable. And I don't represent Jordan Valley, but I have worked with them on a number of transactions. I do represent a canal company that Jordan Valley wholly owns. It's not the same, it's a different one. And I think all of that is eminently doable. It's something that we've talked about at the staff level. I think it's been kind of something we've been kind of holding in abeyance until we get the reuse plan online.
I don't know if we have any means of getting our water to the Great Salt Lake because ours goes out in distribution.
Well, what you would do is you would do a lease, and it would probably be some sort of lease that would involve either Division of Forestry, Fire, and State Lands, which owns the lake on behalf of the state, or the Division of Wildlife, and you just wouldn't divert those shares.
I see.
You'd file a change application, and you'd allow the shares to flow down the Jordan River and just go into the lake naturally.
Okay.
And you, of course, but you'd need to get approval from the canal company to do that.
Right.
I was hoping that we would be able to clean out, because we're at the end of the ditch. We had some means of getting that water down, even if it was in the C7 ditch.
Well, we could still have them send it, and we just don't pull it out. I mean,
Well, we're not gonna be pulling it out, but at the same time, I don't know if we have any way to keep the flow going through, which would improve the quality to the other farmers that are utilizing the distribution. So,
I don't know the answer to that.
but anyway, it was something I was hoping we could look at.
yeah, I think
I
that's
didn't,
what's
I had some water users that called and said, hey, are they gonna lease any out? And I said, well, we don't wanna affect Rio Tinto's opportunity because they they rely on those farmers to keep their water shares that they use for their process. And so I didn't want to take away from that, but at the same time, we might look at something that we could do to get it down to the Great Salt Lake. Good, okay.
Kaylee, all about the conference.
Just, next thing, that's just inserted in your board packet for your information. We're not asking for any approvals at this time. That's just, it kind of helps us schedule the board meetings if we know when
Okay.
they are, so. It's just for your information right now.
Okay, thank you.
If you could, Leal,
Yes?
give us who would be attending from the water company to these conferences.
And we may not know that until, like,
Right, till we line.
we
set
try
it.
to bring,
We try to bring those individually for approval.
As
This
they
is just
come
so
up,
if the
yeah.
board has any interest,
I'll gather that information, probably, first one's in February, March. I'll probably gather the information for those this month or January.
bring it sometime in January.
Yeah, it's just, it's
Based
kinda
off of
helpful if we
CEUs
know,
Sure.
if we have any kind of commitment that we have to provide, it would
Jeff,
be
like
helpful.
Jeff, like Jeff, like Jeff.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I see one in Vernal, and I'm just going, holy cow. Anyway,
Yes, we can do that, Jeff.
all right. Thank you. Ready?
Okay, our next board meeting will be January 9th, 2025 at 10 a.m. here.
Yep.
We are in need of a closed door meeting, so Jeff, do you want to make a motion to close the open and go into
Do we-
close?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to take a brief recess immediately following and meet in closed meeting to discuss character, professional competence, physical and mental health of an individual, the purchase, exchange, or lease of real property, including any form of water right or water shares, pending for reasonable imminent litigation and collective bargaining purposes pursuant to Utah Code Annual 52-4-204 through 205.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
At 11:37, is that what you have?
Yep. It's 12:33. I need a motion to close the close and open the open.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to close the close and reopen the public board meeting.
Second, all
Aye.
in, aye. Scott? Oh, we need a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn this meeting at 12:34.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.